want to make sure y'all can hear us. I can hear it? Okay, there we go. Now I hear it. How you doing? Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for being here. My name is Marco Nobles. I'm chairman of Harlem Week. So happy Harlem Week. It is always a pleasure to be able to do this event. This is our third year that we have done this banking and finance session here at the Chase Community Center. And we have been able to work in partnership with the Greater Harlem Chamber of Commerce to continue to focus on economic issues as well as the things that people know Harlem Week for, which is the arts and the culture, the fashion shows, the concerts, etc. But Harlem is all things, and Harlem Week celebrates all things Harlem. Yes. And so therefore, banking and finance becomes very important. And Chase is one of our legacy partners. Chase has been with Harlem Week almost since the beginning. And the beginning would mean 52 years. This is the 52nd annual Harlem Week celebration. Started as a one-day event in 1974. I won't talk much. I just want to make sure to welcome you on behalf of Harlem Week and turn it over to our partner, the parent organization of Harlem Week. When Harlem Week started, or Harlem Day started, it was started under the auspices of what was then the Uptown Chamber of Commerce, and is now the Greater Harlem Chamber of Commerce. And I'd like to introduce now at this point the interim executive director of the Greater Harlem Chamber of Commerce, Ms. Michelle Scott.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Marco. I thought he was getting ready to take me up here. But yes, this is my 52nd Harlem Week. Started at Harlem Day, and I'm proud to be a co-founder of Harlem Week. Welcome, on behalf of the Greater Harlem Chamber of Commerce, to this Banking and Finance Summit here in Chase Bank's community branch, which is always impressive to me. As Marco said, my name is Michelle Scott. I'm the interim executive director of the Greater Harlem Chamber of Commerce. Our acting chair, Judge Milton Tingling, would have been here tonight, but he was unable to attend. And so I'm pleased to welcome you on his behalf and on behalf of the Chamber. Although Chase has been a partner with Harlem Week for many, many years, this is our third year hosting this event with Chase in this facility. And we hope this evening that you will make meaningful connections and walk away with an idea or resource or a new relationship that can help you strengthen your business. So in keeping with the Chamber's motto, the business of business is people, and something our late president and the CEO, Lloyd Williams, whose image hangs in this very place, somewhere on that wall, always emphasize that we have one request from you tonight, and that is to please make sure you met at least one person that you didn't know when you got here. Okay? So thank you for being here, and we hope that you enjoy the conversation. Now, public speaking is not my strength, I gotta say. We are waiting, however, for our New York City Comptroller, the Honorable Mark Levine, who I understand is behind me, walking in the door. Thank God. Okay. And so I'm going to give him a minute to get in the door, and then I will probably introduce him. He will address you briefly, and then we will move on to our Chase host person with whom I've grown very close over the last several months, and who runs this whole thing here. Okay. Tanisha Richards. Yes. I believe we're waiting for Controller Levine to get out of his car. There he is. Great. Give him a big round of applause. We were really excited. Welcome to Controller Levine. We're proud to welcome you as a special guest and longtime friend and supporter of the Greater Harlem Chamber of Commerce and Harlem Week. From your many years of service as a New York City Council member, Manhattan Borough President, to your current role as New York City Controller, you have consistently demonstrated a strong commitment to our business community and the businesses and the civic community. Please join me in welcoming Controller of the City of New York, Mark Levy.
Thank you, Michelle. Was that a well-timed entrance or what? How we doing? I am so happy to be here with all of you. Happy Harlem Week, 52 years and counting. I can't be at an event like this and not tell you all how much I miss Floyd Williams. I know you all agree with me. I think about him a lot. He was an mentor to me as he was to many in this room. My goodness, during Harlem Week of all times of the year, he's very much on our minds. I only have a couple of minutes. I want to share you some news out of my office and talk about our shared work during more equity and access into our economy and our budget and our investments. But we announced our annual report on our pension funds yesterday, and we have achieved total returns of 13%, which is very good. How many of you are current or future retirees of New York City or Transit? Thank you. Yes, you are. Thank you for your service. Your pension is in very good shape. We've achieved double our benchmark of 7%. In fact, we're doing so well that this means that we're going to take less tax money in the next 5 years by $6 billion. The returns are so good. So yeah, this is all very, very good. Now, we want to make sure that this money isn't just getting good returns. We want to make sure that the people managing our pension funds reflect the diversity of this wonderful city. And we have more work to do on that front, but we made some progress. We now have $26 billion with diverse managers. And here's the thing. They are doing better on returns than the field overall. So diversity and performance go hand in hand with us. We are very proud of that. We're going to make more progress. We do a wonderful annual conference for diverse and emerging managers. We do it every February. We had 1,000 people in Lower Manhattan last year. You are all welcome to join us. It's going to be in Brookfield Place in February. It's a free conference. People from all over the country, diverse managers. And if you or someone you know is building a business managing funds, and you're not yet managing New York City pension funds, or if anyone in the Chambers network is building this kind of business, talk to us. We want to hear from you. We have an open door. We really want to build out this piece of our business. We also had a wonderful, how many of you work in banking in the room? Okay, well, a couple of you. So we did a wonderful meeting yesterday with the network of minority depository institutions. And it was led with State Senator James Saunders. Many of you know Southeast Queens, but he is the chair of the banking committee, very important, very successful leading on diversity. We want to make sure that more of the city's cash is deposited with minority institutions. And Curtis, you got to come with me to all my events because you go pull out on all my lines. You are so good. We do have a lot of cash in New York City. Between like 5 and 15 billion, depending on the time of the year. It goes up and down, but we want it to be with institutions like Carver and Ponce, and Industrial Bank. Industrial? They were there yesterday. Blackstone Bank, long family legacy. And also credit unions like Municipal Credit Union, which are any of you municipal members? A lot of city workers are. Yeah, it's a wonderful institution. Traditionally black-led. And right now the rules are that we can't put any money in credit unions. And actually we have a list of eligible institutions. Industrial is not one. This is decided, we're going to fix this. These rules are set by something called the New York City Banking Commission, which is not well known. A lot of power. There's only 3 members on the commission. The mayor, the finance commissioner, and my office. Our representative is our deputy comptroller, Jordan Stockdale, who's here right now. Wave your hand, Jordan, in the back. So he's awesome. He runs policy for us, but also our banking commission representative. So So we want to make sure that the criteria are reflecting institutions which are serving diverse communities. Communities that have been left behind historically by the banking sector, which a bank like industrial has, they should be on the list. And we want them to be recipients of New York City deposits. We're all in on that. Lastly, because I'm probably over time, but we care a lot about the diversity in the people who receive contracts from New York City. And we contract out a huge piece of New York City government. Does anyone know how much we contract out every year? Anyone know? 46 billion. It's an insane amount of money. It's everything from plastic cups in the school cafeteria to renovating a police precinct and everything in between, right? These are all contracted out. And so we certify firms that are minority and women-led, and then we track how much they get in contracts. My office now has an official mandated role to review that, and every January we put out a report on how we're doing, and we're going to be handling that. We've made a lot of progress under the leadership of Michael Gardner. I don't know if he's here, but I think I might be coming later. Good friend of mine and many others. We got to do better. We got to do much better. I'll just tell you one little piece of the puzzle here. So a lot of these projects, there's a big contractor, and then there's a lot of subcontractors, right? You can imagine, like, a construction project, there's a general contractor, and then you got the plumber, and the electrician, and the carpenter, and all themselves. And we're very good at tracking the contractors, and they come in and they say, oh yeah, don't worry, we're going to contract out to different firms, and then we don't really have a system to track the stuff. And I'm worried that they're not living up to their promises. And so we're trying to build out, in partnership with my partner in the administration, a system to make sure that the subcontractors, there's good business there. And if you're starting out, you're not going to be able to handle a $100 million contract, you can handle a subcontract. So this is what we're working on. We're all in on this work to make sure we have more diversity and equity in our economy, in our pension investments, in our bank deposits, and who's getting contracts with the city. This is work I'm very committed to, partly because of the inspiration of the great Lloyd Williams and many of you. So thank you for having me here again, and happy Harlem Week. Enjoy, everybody.
Thank you, Controller. Moving right along, we have a lot of information to impart this evening. We have two panels, and we want to be respectful of your time and everyone's time. So we're going to move this along and get going. At this time, I'd like to introduce our partner and host tonight, Ms. Tanisha Ritter, Vice President of Community Manager, J.P. Morgan Chase, who will take us to the next step.
Thank you, Michelle. Good evening, everyone. In the spirit of time, first let me say welcome to Harlem community. I see many familiar faces in the audience, but for anyone who's new, my name is Tanisha Ritter, also known as the Brooklyn Girl in Harlem. Don't be too hard on me. I did that just for you. But it is truly a pleasure to see all of you people here. We know that small business is the backbone of every community, and entrepreneurship is the spirit of it. So you are in for such a treat tonight. This work we all do together, but I agree with Michelle. Before you leave, you must exchange contact with one person. Your network is your what? Your network is your what? Exactly. I know you know all these smart people in here. I want to bring up my favorite, Mr. Bora Johnson, so we can get this started, so you guys can get the information you came for.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. Another Brooklyn girl. There's a lot of Brooklyn girls in the audience, but in any case, my name is Deborah Johnson, and I am the market manager for corporate responsibilities, public engagement team. And I am proud to bring about the state of Black small business. Now, tonight is more than just the information. It's about the connection, the access, and the action. So as we explore what the data tells us about Black small business, and more importantly, what we're going to do about it, at JP Morgan Chase, this work is deeply aligned with our commitment to expanding economic opportunity through our American Dream Initiative, a nationwide effort focused on helping people start and grow businesses, build wealth, and create stronger communities. Now, because the reality is that small businesses are not simply part of the economy, they drive it. They create jobs, they anchor neighborhoods, they foster innovation, and they serve as the engines of economic mobility. So as we look at the data tonight, we see something incredibly powerful. Now, women, particularly Black women, are driving entrepreneurship at unprecedented levels. Women have been responsible for roughly half of the new business creation in recent years, and Black women are among the fastest growing groups of entrepreneurs around the country. So the question before us is not whether talent exists, it does. The question is whether we're creating the ecosystem that allows that talent to thrive. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Reverend Dennis Dillon from Christian Times, the creator of the Resurgence Conference and the creator of the data that we're here tonight. So Reverend Dillon. After Reverend Dillon provides the landscape, then the next voice you'll hear will be Shakira Green, our senior business consultant for Coaching for Impact, and she will take us through a moderated panel.
She forgot to say I'm the Brooklyn boy in Harlem. It's good to be in Harlem. It's good to see everybody. Can I have a Harlem style greeting? Hi Harlem, how's everybody doing? Yeah, that does not sound like Harlem. Harlem, how's everybody doing? There we go. That sounds a little more like Harlem. Super, super delighted just to be here and to share. Let me say Happy Harlem Week to everyone. And let me first really salute Harlem Week. I don't know if you've been to any of the Harlem Week events yet, but Harlem Week is really happening this year thanks to the leadership of our chairman, Marco Nobles. Let's put our hands together for him and the entire team. And certainly the Greater Harlem Chamber of Commerce. I do serve on the board and I see many board members in the house. And certainly we salute the leadership. I've got two favorite Michelles and they're both here tonight. Michelle Scott, let's put our hands together for Michelle Scott. Y'all can do better than that. She is the interim executive director for the Greater Harlem Chamber of Commerce, and Michelle Henry, senior vice president at Chase. That's my other favorite, Michelle. Stand up, Michelle, so they see who you are. Thank you. Listen, we don't have a lot of time, so I want to kind of flow through this. Tanisha Rita, thank you so much. Let's put our hands together for Tanisha, who heads the Chase Community Center here in Harlem, and to all of you great, wonderful people, just thank you for being here. If you didn't hear about the Resurgence Conference this year, let me say quickly that that's going to be in Brooklyn, Harlem, and North this year, and of course, South Africa. And those who want to come to South Africa with me, see us after. We've got about 80 people that's a part of our delegation that is going this year, including quite a few key leaders, Melba Wilson, and the list goes on and on and on, that will be making the trip with us. And of course, we are in Harlem at Columbia University for the Resurgence Conference that's going to be in November this year in New York. I want us to just talk a little bit about the data, and I want to go through this very quickly. I gotta tell you that I'm going to move fast. I would strongly suggest that what you want to do is to get the report. The report comes out in October. So I'm kind of giving you a heads up on some of the data that will be in the 2025 report. So in other words, we do up to 2025 and 2026, and that's kind of how it goes year after year. I forgot the online details as to how you get the report online, but I can get that information to you. You could see one of our staff members, when I asked those from the Christian Times that are here, just to stand real quick, our Vice President of Business Development and our Vice President of Circulation is in the house. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. Let me then move to just some key bullet points in the report. And we got a super salute Deborah Johnson for her work and her leadership in this. Come on, let's put our hands together. Thank you, Deborah. We appreciate you. So I'm going to just touch upon some key facts. Again, what would help is for you just if you can, use your phone and shoot and so forth, that works. Black median, that's median and media. Median income has grown to about 48,000. We're still 20,000 below the average. So there's obviously still a lot of growth that needs to take place there. 57% of blacks in America are gainfully employed, compared to 59% of all Americans. If we can put our hands together for Black progress, y'all can come on. We're only 2% behind America. We've been behind in terms of economics for quite some time, but I think in a lot of areas we're catching up, and there are lots of reasons for that. I've seen a dip in Black home ownership, as we have seen over the past maybe 10 or so years, but thanks, there's an increase over last year. Last year's report, we were at 43%, and this year we are moving back up to 45%. Again, it is 65% for all Americans, which means that we are still 20% behind, and obviously there's a lot of work that we need to do in that area. 58% of Black households spend more than 30% of their household income on rent. And again, it's 51% for the rest of America. I need us to just watch the data and see where we are, how far behind we are, or how close we are catching up with everybody else, and what are some of the things that we need to do. Let me just quickly say that this is our report is called the Economic State of, we do 3 annual reports: the Economic State of Black New York, the Economic State of Black America, and the Economic State of the Black World. Those are the 3 reports we do annually. Our data are gathered, our main source of data is the University of Georgia, their Department of Economic Forecasting. We work very closely with Professor Humphreys there, who heads up the Selig Institute. And of course, it's Brookings.edu and Pew Research, and most certainly, most of our data, a lot of our data come from the U.S. Census Tract and the like. So I want to just quickly then move into just talking a little bit about, Black-owned businesses. And in the interest of time, I'm going to skip over a lot of stuff. You could probably get to this data later on. Let's just jump. I'm going to skip that, and I'm going to jump to the chart. U.S. firms and revenues. Let's first take a quick look at this information. And again, when we look at number of U.S. firms, and there's some 24 or so million U.S. firms in all of the U.S., but only a little under 6 million of those firms are what we call employee owned firms, or only about 6 million, a little under 6 million of those firms literally have employees. And so much of this data that I'm sharing this evening would be around those firms that do have employees. When we look at the numbers, again, 84% of those firms are controlled by whites, way below their population representation of 63%. Their revenue is even higher. It's 91%. So I need us to look at where the disparities are and how do we really move to really fix this disparity. And it's going to reflect when we briefly just touch upon our net worth and how does business ownership in particular are tied into net worth. The area that I'm excited about and very concerned about is the Asian numbers. I'm excited that the Asians are doing so well. The Asians are doing a lot better than whites in America these days. But the reality, it is through the Rainbow Coalition. It is all of the work that we black people in America have done that have facilitated this rapid growth that we've seen as it relates to Asian wealth in America. And not to negate the power of how they're doing, but maybe there's some stuff that we need to learn. And one of the most important areas, and I don't know that we understand the impact of this, and that is we have to really move to strengthening our business ownership in these United States of America, and particularly in New York. So look at the black numbers, very concerning. We're 15% of the US population. My estimate is that we are probably about 17.8% when we look at the real hard legitimate numbers. But again, according to the census, we are about 14.5% of the population. But as it relates to the number of businesses we own, we're only 3.4%. And our revenue capacity, our annual revenue capacity is only 1.2%. So it speaks to really how much work we need to do. Compare that with the Asian numbers. The Asians are only 7.2% of the population, but they are 11.5%. As it relates to the number of businesses that they own and operate in these United States of America. So a key that we look at, let me move quickly to the next slide as we continue to look at U.S. employer firm by race. Blacks, we own 200,000 businesses that have employees in the United States of America. Hispanics own 496,000. Asians, the smallest population as it relates to these minority groups, they own 685,000, and of course whites are 4.4 million. Those numbers can be sobering. I won't go through the details of it, but look at the number of employees, because at the end of the day, we're still employing the lease, and our revenue is the lease, and obviously we're paying the lease to our employees as well for lots of obvious reasons. Right, let's just jump to the next slide quickly. Let me bring us home to New York just for a moment. If you understand New York, you will know that the latest number from the controller for the state of New York is that there's about 1.9 million businesses in the state of New York. And the 1.9 million businesses are producing about $2.1 trillion in annual revenue. That would be, by the way, about 7.3% of the total GDP for the United States of America. So, New York is huge when it comes to New York's contribution to the total gross domestic product for the United States of America. Understanding that, and let's kind of bring it up. So when we look at the numbers again, the average small business in New York State, their annual income is 426,000. Total minority is 124,000, and we look at all three minority groups. But again, for black businesses, it's barely enough to pay one person's salary, which is at $63,000. Now, I'm not here to bring us bad news. I'm here to challenge us to understand what the numbers are, where the numbers are, and how obviously we need to move to grow this to the next level. So there are two ways that we grow small businesses. One is access to capital, and number two is access to contracts. At the end of the day, if we don't have access to capital, we will never be able to grow our businesses. And then the second, in fact, most of your successful black businesses in America, the black business with the largest government contract happens to be Worldwide Technology. He happens to be the second richest man in America, David Stewart, and the reality is that he has huge contracts. With the federal government, he has contracts, obviously, with New York City and the likes. So when we look at our SBA numbers are also challenging, and we obviously have to work hard to fix those numbers. The other area, as the controller was talking about, is that of contracts. And when we talk about the 43 billion in contracts from the city of New York, we're getting very little of that. In fact, we're not even in the billion category as it relates to minority. We're only at about 290,000 in terms of the black portion. Only 19% of the minority contracts we're getting, and we are somewhere between. We're the largest minority group in New York City, particularly when you understand that Hispanics is more a language group as opposed to a racial group. That is the numbers, that is the reality. I want to wrap it up here. I just want to quickly say, as we wrap it up, if you look at this slide, median income, look at the challenges. Again, the next one. Yes, right there. Again, median household wealth. Look where the Asians are. I'm not making it up. Google right now. This is where Asians are. They have almost doubled the median household wealth of whites already. And by the way, the bottom line is business ownership. But look where blacks are. We're lagging way behind. Look at the wealth categories, and you will see again home ownership low. Business ownership is the biggest challenge. I can't stress that more. Business ownership is the biggest challenge. If we work harder to fix the business ownership, particularly as it relates to how do we provide more access to capital. And I'm glad this banking forum is really talking about this. I want to salute Chase. Let's put our hands together for JP Morgan Chase. They are at the very top of the list as it relates to SBA loans, and their percentage of loans to our community, though low, it's low for everybody, though low, it is the highest. It is at the highest. So, ladies and gentlemen, listen, there's a lot more that can be shared and can be said. Get the report, and I'm excited about the conversation that's getting ready to take place. Thank you all so much, and again, thanks to Chase, thanks to the Greater Harlem Chamber of Commerce, and thanks to Harlem. God bless you.
Reverend another round of applause because we all know to whom much is given, much is required, and he's doing the work, right? My name is Shakira Green, and I am not from Brooklyn. I am a Jersey girl. Are there any Jersey girls in the house? All right, well, I pay Easy Pass, so I'm technically from Harlem, Brooklyn, Manhattan. Okay, all right. Thank you guys so much for being here this evening. As I welcome our dynamic panel up this evening. All right, so I want you guys to give them a round of applause as they come up. We have the dynamic Tamika Rochester. She is the CEO of Harlem Cycle, which is right across the street. Come on up, Tamika. We have Shay Wood, who is the CEO of Harlem Haberdashery, all of your favorite artists. She has probably designed and styled. Thank you so much, ladies, for being here. We have JR from the Community Capital, one of our CFI partners. JR, could you please make your way to the front? And last but not least, joining us on today's panel, we have Israel Rosario, and he is the Deputy Chief Business Development Officer. So welcome. All right, I'm going to quickly ask everybody just to give us a brief overview. Their bios are just way too long for us to read, and we want to get right into the good content and information. So Tamika, within 90 seconds, can you give the audience an overview of you, your background, your entrepreneurship, your leadership, and so they know a little bit more about you?
Hi everyone, I'm Tamika Rochester. I own Harlem Cycle literally across the street, so I expect to see you there in class soon. We have 2 locations in Harlem and a location in Newark, New Jersey. So been in business 10 years, made it through the pandemic as a fitness studio, which says a lot about the community that we built. I opened Harlem Cycle because I just knew that we needed more in this community. I was looking for a great workout that, I could ride to soca, I could ride to reggae, I could ride to hip hop and have a good time. And I could see people reflect back to me what I was missing. So I was looking for that in our community, and we're still the first and only cycling studio here in Harlem. And we're built on the principles that community comes first.
Thank you, Tamika.
Hello, everyone.
I am Shereen Wood, native New Yorker, born and raised in Harlem. Born West 143rd, went to PS 200. Was a Prep alumni, went to Riverdale Country School, and graduated with a BA in Sociology from Columbia University. At Columbia University in 1992, I created a custom clothing company with my then boyfriend, now husband, 5,001 Flavors. We cater to various personalities in the entertainment industry, so any hip hop, R&B, rap, gospel, anybody you know and love, we probably made their clothes. Check us out on Instagram at 5,001 Flavors. We started Harlem Haberdashery 14 years ago. 5,001 Flavors officially next year is going to be 35 years in business. So I'm super excited about that. I forgot to mention that. So Harlem Haberdashery started about 14 years ago. It's our brick and mortar. It's a retail store located at 245 Lenox between 122nd and 123rd. We are absolutely a family-owned and operated boutique and have brought in more of our family members and multi-generations of fashion and lifestyle entrepreneurs. So we like to call ourselves the first family of fashion. So please stop by. We are also community-driven. I am board president of our nonprofit philanthropic arm, Take Care of Harlem. And our goal is to work with community organizations and celebrate youth and let youth know that we care about you and that you can be from Harlem and still give back and be profitable. So right now we are in our Cool for School phase, so we're collecting school supplies. We just fulfilled the registry for 5 college students only, so we are always giving back. Curtis Archer is a great supporter. Thank you, Curtis. So we're always looking to give back. I love Harlem. Anything I do is to amplify Harlem, and I am absolutely committed to creating a transferable legacy of business, wealth, and opportunity. So I'm proud to sit on this panel.
Good evening, folks. How's everyone? Great. I have to say, when people say Brooklyn's in the house, They really do need it. I'm also from Brooklyn. Brooklyn Born and Bred. I'm in Brooklyn Hospital. My name is Jr. I am the Deputy Chief Business Diversity Officer for the Mayor's Office of Minority and Women-Owned Business Enterprises. So the work that we do is ensure that 36 to 46 billion dollars that Controller B just referenced, as far as the city's procurement budget, our goal is to set the policy and work with citywide agencies to ensure that 30% minimum floor is devoted to minority and women-owned business enterprises as well. We've averaged for the last 4 fiscal years north of $6 billion that have gone directly to minority-owned businesses, minority and women-owned businesses. And last year alone, we actually were able to award about $6.8 billion. Now, sure, you can please feel free to clap. I think that's a great achievement. But the reality is that there's still a lot of work to be done because not only do we have a disparity within city procurement, so 30%, that's 30% of a pie where 70% is still going to white male-owned businesses. So that 30% is basically broken down among the 4 ethnic categories that we actually serve.
Hold on, JR. You're getting into it. I want to give you a minute because that's one
Sorry.
of the questions.
I promise you I'm talking myself. There's a punchline here, trust me. I promise you I'm talking myself. But the point being is that because this is a Black Business Week, the focus of this conversation for us is the work that we need to do among our Black businesses. So last fiscal year, just under $1 billion, or 13.6% of that $6.8 billion that we awarded in government contracts went to Black-owned businesses. So we need to do a bit better. But one of the things that we're monitoring on our end is what we call the disparity within disparity, to ensure that not only is the city actually addressing its overall disparity, but within its actual procurement ecosystem, that we're ensuring that there's an equal distribution. And the last thing I'll say is that we also want to make sure that we have an equal spread distribution of the types of Black and brown businesses that actually are getting certified. For too long, I think we see too many businesses that are basically immersed in the same type of business model and competing for the same dollars. So one of the benefits of the city's certification process is that through that process, there's also a small business development and capacity building onto it as well. So the goal there is not just to build businesses that do business with the city, but also build businesses that are going to be sustainable, whether they're getting a city contract or not. And I'm happy to continue this conversation, and thank you for your time.
Good evening, everyone. My name is J.R. Dorsonville. I am a senior loan officer and contract finance specialist with Community Capital New York. Community Capital New York, for those of you who may not be aware, is a CDFI, and we provide access to capital for small businesses throughout the state of New York. In particular, we've been talking about contracts today, so we have a program where we provide access to capital for businesses who secure state and city contracts, municipal contracts, and some private contracts where we're able to fund them and provide them the capital they need to mobilize on those contracts. Now, I've been a small business owner. I was a small business owner for 10 years. I started a business, myself and a few friends, in a predominantly Black and brown community in Mount Vernon, New York. This was a retail business. And to the point that the Reverend made earlier, starting these businesses does create opportunities in our communities. Right? I remember this was back in 2010 when we opened our doors. When we were hiring folks, they were predominantly Black and brown. When we opened the business in a predominantly Black and brown community, we hired predominantly Black and brown people. Throughout the 10 years that I was in business, that was always the case. Another thing that was always the case is the individuals we were hiring were always people who were unemployed. I don't recall ever hiring somebody who came from another position where they were seeking maybe a better opportunity and we ended up hiring. No, most people were unemployed when we hired them. So it's very important for us to open businesses in our communities. We are creating jobs and we're creating opportunities for folks who live in our community. Now, I ended up coming to this space because of the work that I was doing as a small business owner in that community. I would assist folks with how to manage their business, how to read their balance sheets, P&Ls. I had a pretty decent understanding of that sort of thing. I was able to share that information. When I left that business, we shut it down in 2018. I ended up working in the economic development space as a coaching consultant for small businesses. That led me into the capital and lending space. And I'm able to now combine what I learned as an entrepreneur, working the ground floor, working in the trenches, to now helping folks to secure capital. Okay, and I'm trying to merge those two worlds where I can take that experience and help folks in Secure Capital. And it's been a tremendous experience, and I'd love to share whatever it is that I can with you all this evening.
Beautiful. I told you this was a good panel tonight, right? All right, let's get into it. So my first question is for Tamika. Take us back to the earliest version of Harlem Cycle. I want to know, like, what problems were you solving for in your community? And what was the first small proof that you had people that would pay for it? Yeah, pay for it. Double tap on that. Just to step back, so before I started Harlem Cycle, I was a mechanical engineer. So I was definitely not a fitness girly. I just want to work out. And I enjoyed going downtown to the studios. And I just was like, this is such a fun workout. Why are they playing this music? It's terrible. And so I was like, there has to be another way that we can get something in our community like this that really catered towards our culture, celebrated our culture, and we could have a good time without having to go downtown. And I remember I got the idea for Harlem Cycle and I did my business plan and I looked through all my numbers and I was like, okay, it can work. And I put my website out there, and my web developer called me one night. And she was like, "Did you do something special?" And I was like, "No, I haven't done anything yet." We hadn't made any announcements or anything. Only thing I had done was put on the window when we were doing the build-out, coming soon. Here's our website. And she said, "You got 2,000 people that visited your website yesterday." And I was like, for me just putting up a sign, that was the first like, okay, maybe I'm not crazy. Maybe this is a thing. And when I knew they would pay for it, so our first day of classes, we had 8 classes. I put up this Eventbrite. It was like all free classes for the whole day. Come learn about us, come check out, ride with us. Of course, I would say sold out. It filled in like less than 24 hours. And I was like, oh my God, people are really coming. No, free people aren't really your clients, right? So of course it filled up in those couple of hours. But the good thing is, while that went up, memberships were being purchased. So the real serious people who were like, this is coming and I want to be a part of it, started buying before they even came to the free class. And so that to me was the first sign. To this day, I still remember the first person that ever bought. She will forever have a membership at Harlem Cycle, because the moment I heard that purchase came through, I was like, oh my God, this is happening. And someone cares enough to like spend their money before we had even finished construction. I love that, love that. So we heard earlier a lot of data from Reverend, right? The data gives us a clear picture. The economic power is there, but access to capital, contracts, and the opportunity is still not evenly distributed, right? So I want to dive into what you, Shay, for entrepreneurs building culturally significant businesses. What do you wish more founders understood about raising capital without losing control of their vision? I know you're a visionary.
So I did love listening to the report, but I also feel like there is a formalized entrepreneur, and then there are my people like on 125th just hustling. So we have to understand when we talk about entrepreneurship, we're talking about formalized entities, people that understand the structure. So I feel like a lot of times, like that question is for me, but it's not for a bunch of entrepreneurs that I know. And I want to, at least acknowledge that those people are hustlers and the backbone of our country, and why I wanted to become an entrepreneur. What I wish that I knew and other entrepreneurs know is that the bank is a business and it has to be good business for them to give you money. And sometimes as an entrepreneur, we basically just want y'all to show us the money and not understand that it has to make sense to get it. So the want just can't be that I need it. It has to make sense. So you have to be bankable. So you have to get rid of all of those bad habits and terrible mindsets that keep you from getting, capital. At the point you need capital, you just need it. And that application process is daunting because you got to explain and then you got to question and you got to rationalize. I just wish entrepreneurs knew that they have to really be in business making money, but they also have to be respectful of the business of borrowing money. And I don't think you know that until you need it and then you don't borrow. points there. That's probably from a personal conversation with Shakira.
All right, awesome. I want to keep the dialogue between the two business owners for a minute before we move to the ecosystem with you two gentlemen, if that's okay. So back to you, Tamika, right? What did you offer first? And you kind of touched on this, but I would love for you to give a little bit more. A class? Was it a pop-up? Was it a partnership? Was it a pre-order? What was your minimum viable version that really made sense? And what brings in the most revenue for you?
When we first started, we did do the first day free. Everyone just come right, check out the place, learn about our music, learn about our classes. But that was the last free day because I realized these aren't my clients. Within the first few hours, I recognized these weren't going to be my clients. And you know, there's a thing going on in the fitness industry where people are giving away like first class free. That's cute. But it's not like, do you go to your dentist and ask for your first cleaning for free? Do you go to another store and ask for the first thing for free? You give me a full service. I can't give you 10 minutes of a class. I gotta give you the whole class. And so when I realized these people are going to always want free, I was like, okay, well, we gotta figure out how to get them in here. Like, how do I raise the barrier to kind of make sure I'm getting true clients? So then we did half off for your first class, right? So then our single class was 25 at the time. Half off was $12.50. Like, you can't go to Popeyes for $12.50. Like, $12.50 for a full 45-minute class is a steal. Again, years of testing this number, and I realized we would get so many people that will buy the $12.50 deal, they would book a class, and would never show up because to them it's nothing. Like, they didn't feel like they weren't investing in their health, and they weren't investing in us, and so they just wouldn't show up for the class. But I'm a cycling studio, so if you book a bike, we sell this bike. So now my class is full according to my numbers, but nobody's here. And that wasn't a good scenario for me. And so I started looking back at like, okay, how do I then make sure I'm getting people who are committed to actually taking this class? And people who are committed to showing up. So we just kind of played around with what that new client's deal would be to get people to like it. You know, and I did a lot of studying and talking to a lot of other fitness studio owners to kind of see, and they're always like, you get per people to the third class. It's always that third class is the sweet spot. So we have a 4-class deal, right? That 4 classes for $49. Like, it's a steal, I just need you to get to 3. So kind of like reiterating what that new client's deal was really got us to the point where we could recognize who our clients were, what they needed, and how do I get to this threshold where I know they'll be repeat clients.
I heard focus on target audience. How many times do we miss that as business owners, right? You have to focus on your target audience. I so mean that Lamborghini doesn't do commercials because their average client, their direct client, isn't watching television. So they use their marketing dollars in other strategies, right? So that was great. I'm going to bring it back to you, Shay, but I want both of you to touch on this question, all right? So when it comes to getting access to capital, can you talk about a moment when access or lack of access to capital changed the trajectory of your business? You've been doing this since what,
1992. I will lean into not getting access to capital. Because at this point, I just want grants. I am a first generation legal entrepreneur. I said this in my TED Talk. I try to be very transparent. I am literally building the plane while I'm driving it. It's not a good thing. And so I know that my transferable wealth may not be reached in this lifetime, but what I have done in my family has changed the trajectory of who I am in Harlem and who my family is. I'm forever proud of that. I don't consider the financial success of my business as the biggest thing that I like to talk about, because when I really sit down and look at it, the numbers don't make sense. Math ain't math. I'm always underfunded. I always need more than I qualify for. I've been in spaces and rooms where I see people who have an ideation but no proof of concept walk in and do their entitlement thing. Hey, show me the money and get the money. And I'm standing there 30 years in multiple businesses and can't get half of what I deserve. And so at this point, I'm trying to show up like it's enough, but it's not. It's not enough. But you cannot scale your business with your own money. Everybody knows this. So I have been funded, yes. It has been underfunded. It has been never what I need. It's never what I asked. But I'm always thankful for one, still being relevant, still being able to improve my community, my business. But I can't really attribute the success that I've had in my business or my access to capital. I have literally at this point given up searching for other people's money. It's not out there for me. You cannot tell me that it is because I don't have time to take away 2 weeks to fill out all your applications for you to tell me no. So I will keep trying. I love institutions like Chase that have that commitment to bettering our communities because we need it. We need advocates. I need Shakira. I need Tanisha to keep telling me to keep going. But it is so distressing as a business owner to think that you can get something. It's almost like a carrot that you can never reach. So I hope you guys don't give up on people like me that are kind of like, this isn't working for me. But I can tell you that like, this community bank and this institution has really changed the trajectory of how I view the banking system because there is not a lot of community love in the banking system. It's strictly a business. And the fact that we have forums like this kind of, make me feel like there is an opportunity, that there is a way. I just have to get out of my own mindset about how I was treated and what my success is to understand that there is a viable partner. I just have to get out of my own way. And so that is a lot of what entrepreneurs are. They're in their own way. They're not able to understand and access the capital and programs that we need to because we're literally trying to survive. So if we can exist without being in a survival status, I think we will have a better opportunity to get the money that we deserve.
Well, we don't want you to be discouraged. And these two gentlemen over here are going to talk about some resources. But Tamika, you just recently expanded in North New Jersey, right? So we have a new HARLEM cycle leader. Talk to us about access to capital. How did you do it?
So I always think it's funny. I've done a couple of Chase panels, and Chase was the first person to tell me no when it came to a loan. I don't hold it against them. It actually lit a fire under me because I was like, oh, okay, I'll be back. So I definitely got a lot of no's, but with every 10 no's, there's one yes. That's all you need is the one yes. So I've been able to actually, we grew a lot, coming out of the pandemic, there was, I always call it the reckoning where, George Floyd and all those things, and all these companies felt a little bit of guilt. So they were giving out like 1,000, 2,000, 10,000. Not enough, but if you jumped on the wave at the time, you were able to apply to a couple of grants. So we got a couple of grants that way coming out of it. I've worked with a lot of CDFIs to, help with loan. They're shaking his head. Yes. So CDFIs was the way for me to go because the banks just weren't banking me. And I want to remind y'all, I was a 6-figure income corporate American girly, significant savings. I never spent my money and still could not get a loan. So it wasn't my personal account, my personal anything. I had the best credit score in the world. It's somehow I wasn't bankable. But through CDFIs, through smaller grants, and I will say the grant game is hard. You spend so much of your time filling out these applications. I've filled out over 1,000 applications. Again, you only need one. One will take you to that next level. But it becomes a system. Like every Friday, for 3 hours, I spend strictly only on grants. And I don't say to no with any grants. Like if there's a grant that provides services, maybe it's a grant that gives me marketing services instead of dollars. That's still money back in my pocket that I'm not spending out. If it's a grant that gives me, some professional to come look at my finances, or maybe I just finished a QuickBooks grant. Like it came from my QuickBooks and my MailChimp, so that's money I'm not paying out every month. So it's those kinds of things that kind of help you take it to the next step. They're few and far between, but I would say stay focused on that plan. I've had investors who've reached out and wanted to, provide a sizable amount of money to invest behind HARLEM Cycle, and I said no. The reason I said no was they didn't understand the vision, and they wanted equity, which it's okay to of equity if you need it at a point, but they didn't understand my vision. One, they tried to change the name. Now, Harlem Cycle is Harlem Cycle. I don't care where we get. There's only Harlem Cycle in New Jersey. We're well there. And so the fact that they couldn't even understand the concept of how Harlem itself is a brand and is very much a significant part of who we are was a definite no for me. But so one of those things is, lesson one is be careful who you're taking money from. Every money, all money isn't good money. Two is you just have to stay persistent when it comes towards other ways of funding yourself. For us, particularly as minority companies and black-owned companies, the grants are out there. Just stay persistent. It's going to take a lot of no's to get to that yes. And then I'll say third is, and I'll say I haven't done it, but I've seen so many businesses do it and do it successfully, is lean in on your community. Back in the pandemic, we had a break-in. Just someone decided life wasn't bad enough, let's break into Harlem Cycle. It's one of the lowest points for me in business, right? Like we were struggling to survive, and then here comes someone breaking in. And I remember I went by the studio, the police called, and I'm there, and I took a picture, and I just posted on Instagram. I was like, it's been hard. We're in a pandemic, and this might be it for me. I'm done. Within 15 minutes, clients just showed up at the door. Dustpans, brooms, trash bags, and then one of them was like, "Can we give you some money?" And I was like, "No, I'll figure it out." They were like, "Yeah, so pull out your computer. Let's do a little quick GoFundMe. Let's fix at least enough to cover the cost of putting this door back in the windows and things." In 24 hours, we had raised $15,000. And I always say it's a testament to our community, but it also was me getting out of my own way and asking for help. And so sometimes we just got to get out of our own way and ask for help.
So much. Thank you for your transparency. And although we declined initially, and Shay have been a part of our Coaching for Impact program, which is a phenomenal complementary executive coaching program that we offer to all entrepreneurs, at least if you've been in business for at least 2 years and have $100,000 of revenue. And you meet with consultants like myself. And so both of these ladies did it because we realized it's not just giving a no, but it's explaining what do we look for from a lender's perspective. Do you have your tax returns together? Do you know what a profit and loss statement is? Do you have a capability statement? So we were able to help both of these ladies understand it, craft it, so that they can become more, get more access to capital, right?
Chance, I was gonna be back.
All right, let's transition over to Israel. So how can MWBE certification serve not just as an entry point, right, but as a true catalyst for small businesses to grow, scale, and compete on a larger level?
Sure, that's a great question. First and foremost, the certification process is a multi-layer process. So in a lot of ways, you have to have your financials in order, you have to have your house in order, your entire business entity and structure almost has to basically fit the ability to actually walk into an institution like Chase and be able to qualify for a loan. So the certification process in and of itself helps a lot of small businesses actually organize in a way that they maybe never thought about organizing. Because let's just, one of the things that I neglected to say when I was introducing myself is that I did a lot of economic development work. 25 years ago, I actually worked with Mark Levine, Controller Mark Levine, for Neighborhood Trust Management Partners. We were doing basically micro business lending in the Washington Heights and West Harlem communities. So I did a lot of direct business development work with small micro businesses, small storefronts, and basically put them in a position to go into a financial institution, specifically a neighborhood trust or credit union at the time, to be able to qualify for a loan. And you'd be surprised how many folks simply aren't organized enough to even pass the certification process. So the first step in the certification process is ensuring that you're in a position to actually be certified and to actually service the ability to service a city contract. The city's not like a bank in the sense that we have a fiduciary responsibility to taxpayers. We have to make sure that any kind of contractual organization we go into a business, we have to feel certain that there's going to be a high rate of not just the ability for that vendor to complete the contract, but also complete the contract in good standing. So that's part of what the certification process allows me. Now, the good news is that you can walk into the Department of Small Business Services without any interest in becoming certified as an MBE vendor. There's a whole breadth of capacity building services available to you all that are funded by your taxpayer dollars. So my recommendation is for all of you to take full advantage of that. We have empowerment centers all around the city that you can actually walk into. We have any number of hotlines, any number of actual website interfaces where you can actually you can speak directly with a customer service specialist who can get you on that road. The reason we're focused on procurement is because we're legally required to, of course, but also it's a great pathway towards businesses being able to build a foundation for long-term sustainability. As I mentioned, not just the actual certification process, but your ability to actually be able to service loans from procurements, from micro purchases to small contracts to being a subcontractor on a prime, on a waterfront contract, building a specific need to eventually actually being able to build towards being a prime vendor. We did an analysis, I think, in the opening remarks. We had heard about how Black women-owned businesses, as one of the African business community in this country, we actually did an analysis a couple of years ago, and we're wondering why there's still a disproportionate small distribution of procurements, specifically city contracts, that are going to Black women-owned firms. And one of the things that we saw from that is that there's a success story within that small percentage. I'll have it to there's still a success story within that, because what we've seen is that a lot of the Black-owned women businesses that actually were getting certified were essentially micro businesses, businesses of 5 or less employees that don't have the capacity to service the larger homes. So when we're talking the larger contracts, when we're talking about contracts in the sizes of billions of dollars, it's easy to lose the smaller picture. What we've seen in this analysis is that consistently to about 80+% over a 4-year period, we saw small black men businesses that actually were servicing contracts. We saw a growth, a precipitous growth over years, but they were actually building the capacity to serve larger contracts on a scale that we felt was sustainable. So sometimes it's easy to get caught up in the bigger numbers because we live in New York City, is the financial capital of the world, and you get $46 billion procurement budget. What you're looking at is the bigger numbers. But there's benefit in some of the smaller numbers because they can help you get to scale, and it can help you diversify your business where you're not just relying on city contracts. One of the things we tell people all the time is that your financial model is hinged on being able to secure government contracts on a regular basis, and that's just the wrong financial model. Because the reality is, or business model, because the reality is that there's no guarantee that the city is going to procure a specific service or good in perpetuity. So you have to be able to build an actual customer base outside of just New York City agencies. I'll leave it there because this could be a very layered conversation on procurement, but I'll leave it there, and I hope I answered your question.
You did an excellent job, didn't he? All right. Okay, we did the time check. Awesome. All right, so we're going to switch over to JR. So many small business owners know they have access to capital, but they may not be familiar with the Community Capital of New York. So can you tell us about this organization, the services you provide, and how they help entrepreneurs who may or may not qualify for the traditional banks like Chase, because we are held to different standards from compliance. If we were to fail, that would be catastrophic to the economy. So we are held to a different compliance, and sometimes we can do things and sometimes we can't.
So let me quickly dispel a myth, right? CDFIs, they tend to be non-for-profit organizations. They tend to be mission-driven organizations. What they are not are charities, right? We're not in the business of just handing out dollars for everyone who comes through the door. Those standards that she spoke about, while we are not a for-profit organization like Chase, we also have lending standards that we adhere to as well. We also have compliance standards that we adhere to. Okay, so I want to make sure that folks understand that if you are a business and you've been operating for the last 5 years and you've not been profitable those last 5 years, you're not going to walk into a CDFI, any CDFI across the country, and expect to get capital. It's just not going to happen. Right? The way that lenders go about evaluating business opportunities, underwriting loans, you have to be a profitable business. You have to be a business that has cash flow. And so as business owners, I need you guys to really understand this. Now, where we do differ is that we do take a more holistic approach to business ownership and to our business owners, right? So when we ask for credit scores, for example, we don't actually use a credit score, but we do look at your credit report. We want to see what's on there. There are many reasons why you might have a 600 credit score. People have 600 credit scores because they have collections and charge-offs. Other people have 600 credit scores because they have high utilization. You make all your payments on time, you've never missed a payment, but for whatever reason, your utilization might be high, that might drive down your score. I can mentor you in a situation like that. I can look at your numbers, we can find a way to make that work. If you have a 500 credit score because you have charge-offs, collections, bankruptcies, I can't lend to you. And the fact that I'm a CDFI, the fact that I'm a mission-driven organization does not allow me to lend to you in those circumstances. Right? And so folks think they can come through the door with those situations in place and get capital. You can't, right? It's not possible. That's not really what we're here for. But we do provide services where we may be able to connect you with folks to help you get through that hump. I've worked with people for 8 months, helping them get through credit situations where I'm now able to lend to them at the end of that 8-month period. But in month one, when those situations existed, I could not lend to them. Right? And so I need our folks to understand that. Right? I need our folks to understand that. So Community Capital New York, I did say this a little bit in the beginning. We provide access to capital for small businesses throughout the city of New York, throughout the lower Manhattan, and throughout the state of New York for some of our projects. Right? We do help a ton of Black and brown business owners, I promise you. And in fact, it was front and center in our mission. We had to adjust things a little bit because of what's been going on recently as far as the current government administration, right? But it used to be right there, front and center and now, because we took that very seriously. We wanted to make sure that all folks had access to capital. We have a number of SBA products. We're part of the SBA microloan program where we can lend up to $50,000. We're part of the SBA 7A Community Advantage program where we can lend up to $250,000. We have our own private products and we have partnerships with other local lenders and other funders where we can lend potentially up to $1 million+ for small businesses and through our contract with financing program. All of these programs have helped small businesses. I've worked with a ton of Black, Latino-owned businesses, Asian-owned businesses to help them access capital to work on these contracts that we talked about before. But I do need you to come to the table with the fundamentals in place. We introduced a little bit, you mentioned balance sheets and P&Ls. I do need you guys to understand that those documents are important. The amount of people who come through the door and don't have books readily in place. The amount of people who come through the door and think, I can take losses on my tax returns. There are folks who take losses on their tax returns even when their businesses are profitable because somebody told them that would help them with taxes. But they weren't thinking about growth. They weren't thinking about where they were going to be in the future and the capital that they were going to need to be able to access those opportunities. And so they took losses on their tax returns in order to save on taxes, but now can't access capital because as a lender, I'm looking to see how profitable your business is. And it doesn't matter to me that you did that for a tax savings. What I see is that you reported to the government that my business lost $50,000 last year. I'm thinking you're a business that loses $50,000 a year. And I can't fund you because I need you to be profitable. I need you to have strong cash flow in order for you to be able to be fundable. Right? And so I think we're going to talk about that in a little bit more detail. I'm going to leave it at that. Community Capital New York is here for this community. We do serve Black and brown people. However, we need these businesses to adhere to the fundamental practices of business ownership, of good stewardship in your business in order for you to get the funding that you need. And if we can meet there, and we do work with folks to get there, but if we can meet there, we can get you the funding that you're looking for.
Awesome. Thank you. So I want to get this last question in from each of the panelists, starting with Tamika. If you could give one practical next step that every business owner in the room can take away and apply within 30 days, what would that one step be?
I would say really sitting down and putting together your financial statements and your 90-day plan on how you're going to get to your goal. Every time I look back on my, there's some days where I have to tell myself, oh, you must not want to make money today because you ain't done nothing today. So it's really writing out your plan, creating your 90-day goal, and then realizing how to chip away at that goal, I think is most important.
Get down.
And for me, it would be the roadmap to success needs to be revised with every few months. There are things that you do that are not good for your business, good for you personally. And I think sometimes we get so set in these routines and how we start is not necessarily how we finish. That we're very rigid as entrepreneurs, so we need to constantly reassess what is not going to work no longer for me. What do I need to start doing, stop doing, and we need to be really truthful about, are we making money, or sometimes people are in business, they really have no business being in business because it's not profitable. And so a lot of times we think that sales is profit and it's not. And so we have to be really truthful about what are we doing, what are our goals. And I try every few months to really reassess who I am and what am I doing, and is it worth being in business? And so that has served me well, and I continue to do it, and I will continue.
I think for me, it's two things. First, if you want to be certified as an MWE, the first thing that I would actually compel you to do is actually sit down with a certification officer. I actually have some information here in terms of the certification checklist. That officer can give you essential information where you can begin to organize. Organization is key to this. Where you can begin to organize. You can begin to organize and prepare yourself for the certification process, which can take up from 6 months to a year. But in that path, you actually will be beneficial for you whether you pass a certification or not. Multiple NWEs, actually, eventual NWEs, but submit multiple certification applications. And sometimes it takes 1 or 2 tries to actually be successful. But in that process, they have access to a plethora of city services that are available to you. Number 2, if you're just a small business person, even if you're still in the conceptual stage of that business, or you're ready to walk into a bank, or you're ready to actually begin to invest in your business, I would encourage you to walk into one of our business outreach centers and speak to a client service who has a case study, like a case manager type approach, who can actually give you an assessment as to where you are, where you need to be, given your specific goals. Everything from drafting a business plan to drafting your capability statement, etc. So in the next 30 days, I think education is one, and beginning the conversation. I think once you start the actual momentum, you'd be surprised how far it can take you. Once you learn what actual services and resources are out there for you as a resident of New York City, and most importantly, as a taxpayer. Again, these are taxpayer dollars that are funding these services, and you'd be remiss if you weren't taking advantage of it.
Beautiful. Bring it home for us, JR, really quickly.
So I'm going to say, get your financial house in order, right? Start with your personal financial situation. I promise you it will not be a waste of time. It will be well worth your time. The one thing that I realized as a business owner is how fast time goes by. And I recognized my follies and my mistakes where I didn't take the time necessary to address an issue. I let it fall by the wayside. It came back to bite me years later. And I could have addressed that issue. I could have been way beyond it had I just took care of it at the time that it needed to be taken care of. So I promise you, today, don't just rush into business if you don't have the fundamentals aligned with your personal financial situation. Take the necessary time to organize that first, and you will be in a much stronger position when you start your business. You'll be shocked the parallels that exist between personal finance and financial management within your business. That P&L, that balance sheet, they apply to you personally as well. We call them slightly different things, right? The savings that you accumulate in your checking or savings account, but you might put in a money market account, that's just profits, right? You earn income, you spend money every month, what's left over builds up in your savings account. That's literally, I drive revenues into my business, I pay for my operating expenses, what's left over is my profits. If you start to address these issues personally, and you build up your personal financial situation, it will absolutely translate into your business situation. And I assure you, if you do this, it's going to work out for you. Okay? So if I can leave you with one thing, that's it.
Beautiful, beautiful. And my one thing would be to get a business coach. As I mentioned, it's a complimentary program. I say complimentary because there is a cost, but guess who's paying the bill? JP Morgan Chase, right? So this is free services. We don't pull you out of your business. We meet with you via Zoom. So if interested, see myself or my sister Tanisha over here. We have a QRC code. We'll get you scanned up, and a consultant, either myself or one of my peers, will reach out to you. Now, the good part, right? Q&A. Who has any questions? We are not doing Q&A. We're going to hold Q&A. Thank you, Shakira. First of all, give this panel a round of applause. You guys are incredible. Thank you for telling your story. Thank you for giving your insight. I want to bring up Michelle so we can introduce the next set of panelists that are coming up to bless you guys with some more incredible information. And I will be coming around with the QR code for those who are interested in coaching for impact.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to move right into our next panel, entitled Small Business in Transition, Real Challenges, Opportunities, and the Road Ahead. And we have a distinguished panel with us today, moderated by Curtis Archer, Chamber Board Member, former President of Harlem Community Development Corporation, now retired. We have Mr. Joel Abreu, Senior Business Development Officer at Upper Manhattan Empowerment Zone, or UNED. We have Ms. Princess Jenkins, founder and owner of the Brownstone, and so many of you have shot that. I know I have. Delane, Chief Executive Officer of NCB Capital and the Delane. Okay. No, we're going to have Curtis as moderator. We're going to have Mr. Abreu, and we're going to have Princess Jenkins. Okay.
Harlem Entrepreneurial Fund. Man. Thank you so much. Let me just, first of all, how many guys are familiar with Harlem Community Development Corporation? All right, here you go. So now, if I told you that we own the Apollo Theater, what would you say? Thank you. Also, Victoria. I was hired to do that in 2006. That is correct. That's correct. And then, of course, the one that my wife loves is the National Urban League. She loves it, but now she has a Trader Joe's. Okay? And just so I heard all of this swag from BK, Brooklyn. But can you say, BX, baby, all day. Here you are. That's right. So I'm originally, but I have been a Harlemite since 1980. So I got stories. You guys got stories. Well, we're going to kick it off right away, okay? So you heard a lot of stuff. One of the things, and Princess, I did hear something in the last thing, that the word, the G word. I don't like to use the G word. You know what I'm talking about, boy? What is the G word? Grant. Are there grants out there for businesses, for-profit businesses?
There's some.
There are. Okay. So you guys going to talk about that?
Yeah.
Okay, a little bit. But let's start off because I don't know who are you, Joel? Tell us about. Let me have your elevator pitch. Go ahead.
Sure. So my name is Joel Abreu. I work as a senior business development officer at Upper Manhattan Empowerment Zone. I used to work for Chase as a business banker back in the day, and then I went into consulting for the Department of Design and Construction on community impact, and then I got the role at UMS, which kind of led my whole worlds, community impact and banking. That's a little bit about myself. I'm volunteering. I used to be the chair of business development for Community Board 12. That's from Washington Heights. That's where I was born. But I'm from the Bronx. I rep the Bronx. But yeah, that's a little bit about myself.
Thank you so much. And now, Princess, of course, everybody's heard of the Brownstone, correct? All right, here you go. However, Women in the Black. I also want to know about that. Princess, go.
Good evening, everybody. I want to thank the Chamber for inviting me today, and Chase, and of course Curtis, and all of those of you who came to the second panel. The Brownstone was the first African American department store to ever open in Harlem. We took 3 floors of a turn-of-the-century brownstone and turned it into that. We did that for almost 10 years. I've been in Harlem now 28 years. If you haven't been to the Brownstone, I invite you to come. And a couple of years ago, we opened in New York, which is now housed at the Victoria. And my heart is with women and women business owners. So I started a nonprofit called Women in the Black in the 80s. And we have hosted our 28th annual Women's Business Conference in Harlem, training thousands of women.
Thank you for that, Princess. Thank you. And so you heard before there were a couple of bankers on the last panel, correct? Or representative from New York City, right? And of course, I was New York State. But before we go on, I gotta say this guy, he actually worked for a bank, a CDFI, okay? And also now he's back as I don't say the dark side, as the Harlem Entrepreneur Fund. That can only be Lloyd Doman.
Thank you so much. And I'm from from Newark, New Jersey. Yeah, I've been adopted by Harlem. Curtis has taken me under his wings, and it's an honor to be here. I want to thank the Chamber, and it's great seeing all of you, many of which have been my clients. And so currently I'm the Chief Lending Officer at the Harlem Entrepreneurial Fund, right down the street. We've been in business since 2008. We provided over $17 million in flexible capital as well as technical assistance to over 500 small businesses, helping to create and retain over 1,700 jobs. As Curtis mentioned, I actually started my career at JP Chase 25 years ago, actually, starting on Wall Street, and really had a great career there. But my calling was community development. Just growing up in Newark, I saw how when there was underinvestments in our communities, although we have so many great potential businesses that could benefit, without the investment, those businesses and communities don't thrive. So I was able to transition to work in community development finance. And as Curtis mentioned, I worked at CDFIs, such as Carver Federal Savings Bank. I spent 4.5 years there. And I've worked at a number of other CDFIs here in the local area. But as I heard the other panel, I heard some of the challenges, for example, that Tamika mentioned in terms of getting access to capital. That's one of the things that we pride ourselves on as a CDFI, is that, even though we partner with Chase, we partner with other banks in the community, but we recognize that there's some limitations to their underwriting standards and what they can do for our small businesses. So that's where we step in. And we have a little bit more flexibility. For example, we were able to work with Tamika at the time when she was transitioning from her full-time job as an engineer into running Harlem Cycle. And so if you just start a business and you don't have 3 to 5 years of operating history, one of the things we're able to do is take a look at a global cash flow. So we could take a look at her 6-figure income, and we were able to get comfortable with the risk and know that she has a high probability of paying us back this loan. And so we took a chance on her, and she's been so successful, and has her 3rd location that she's opened, and she's thriving in. And that's what we seek to do. We seek to help small businesses where they are. So if you're not capital ready at the moment, we also have technical assistance through our small business solution centers right here in Harlem and in Washington Heights. And we provide free services to our small businesses. Now, Curtis mentioned, the G word, grants. And
hold off on that. We're going to get to that.
We'll get to that. I'll stop there, but we'll come back to that.
We have nothing against them. First of all, I want to just take this time to thank God that I'm here. Reverend Dillon, thank you for inviting me. That's right. I want to thank Coach Grant, Marco, Charles, my whole crew here, Michelle. Thank you for having me, and also But you know, one things that I definitely, I've been out here for a while. I told you I used to work at the Upper Manhattan Empowerment Zone, right? I remember a risk was a project. So I want to know that, and what we're going to get into. So in terms of blending to this community, what is your job at UMass in terms of business development? Do you work with the small business community? Do you lend directly to them?
Yeah, first of all, absolutely. So you had started in the 90s. It started as an empowerment zone, trying to get city funds to empower this community. And then, the empowerment zones was established throughout New York, one in the Bronx, the empowerment zone, and here in Manhattan. And a lot of that was sunset. But through banks, through other grants, funding from banks like JPMortgages, we were able to search and really become a CCFI. In 2017, we were certified by the Treasury Department to become a CCFI, and we started lending, especially in small businesses. In 2020, during the pandemic, we got a grant to start micro loans. These micro loans were $50,000 for forgivable. So talk about the cheaper. So at 5 years after based on profitability, 5 to 6%, and you pay on-time payments for 4 years at 50 years. And we still have funds level in the pandemic. So just to answer your question, absolutely, we're now a CCFI. Definitely fund business, for sure.
Thank you for that, Joel. One of the things, of course, now, the reason that's called the brownstone, you were first in a brownstone, right there on Fifth Avenue, okay? And then, of course, you moved to 125th Street. Certainly the most expensive real estate in northern Manhattan is what? 125th Street, right here, okay? So A, how you doing that? I'm impressed, absolutely, that's one. And then two, I want to hear about the journey to get right there in the Victoria Theater. Got it.
So first, let me say this, Curtis, I've been an entrepreneur for 40 plus years. So I've been at every level of entrepreneurship imaginable. I know about using your credit cards. I know about cashing in your insurance. I know about taking my stock and selling it 3 and 4 times. I know about walking my mother to the well, it wasn't an ATM, I walked her to the window, and she finally said, "That's it for you." So I know every level. So it takes a lot to get where you are and where we're going. So I was so happy to hear Tamika and Shay share, because people look at you and think you're there, but there's a whole backstory to how you get there, how you get up every day, and how you show up every day. And one of the things that I learned was to bank on myself. A lot of entrepreneurs are looking for a loan, or they may be looking for a grant of some kind. But really, when you're starting, you have to be able to kind of hustle and grind it out. There's 2 part-time jobs in a business. There's 1 part-time job in a business. And then there's a business and you're consulting. There's always something that's going to get you there. So I want to say that, because if you have a business or an idea and you're hearing you're not bankable today, that doesn't mean that you're not a business person. You still are striving. One of the things that I wanted to talk about was the fact that Reverend Dillon brought up that African American women businesses are growing in record numbers, and they are. As part of my work with Women in the Black, I have to know those numbers. And what we found and what the information showed tonight, that those businesses are making less than $25,000 to $28,000. Right? So what if we're growing? There's no income, there's no real money behind it. And so the banks know those numbers. They get those numbers. So when you walk in as a small business owner, they're like, okay, so she's hardly making $25,000. And they would probably be right in a lot of cases, right? But God forbid, like I think he left already. He said, your personal credit will help you in a lot of ways. I got every credit card under the roof, and I know how to move them around, right? But I had to have a good credit in order to do that. So the other thing that I learned when I came to Chase Bank, actually, they taught me this, that they were willing to give you a credit line. That's what I wanted. I was like, oh, I got credit cards, I got a little cash. I'm going to get a credit line. They sat me right down and said, this is what we're going to give you. And I walked out. I said, oh, well, I can make myself that. Right? Because I'm smart. I know that business moves like this. So I'm saving. I'm planning for the rough times. So I walked out and I got a call, like, I got down the block a little bit. It's like, oh, Princess, we got a new program. And they did it. There was some kind of quick something, I can't remember. And they actually doubled the money they were going to give me. So they doubled it to 20%. And I said, now here's what I've learned. That if you say yes the first time, you ain't even going to get the second call as I got down the block. And then I found out what do banks really look for, because I had no idea. I'd never applied for a line. And I didn't have any friends that had a business or applied or gotten a line. So a lot of times you're just in the muddy water all by yourself trying to figure it out. And once I found out what Chase wanted, which was great information for me, I was able to shop for a line that was even higher than the second one that they had offered me and get it. Now, here's the other part of that. I never used the line. I just wanted to have it. Right? Because you ask most black businesses, do they have a line? And they say no. I was like, let me get a line. I'm always challenging myself, right? So I get the line, and then the pandemic hits, and I go, oh shoot, I got a line. And you know what they did? They pulled my line. I had never used the line, and they pulled my line. And I said to myself, who the heck pulls the line when you need it? That is just the craziest. It's like, you know what? The liquor stores were open and the churches was closed. Like, I still can't from the pandemic. This is crazy things that happen. So they pulled the line. Right after the pandemic, I got the line back. I really still don't use it. Every now and then I'll take a couple of thousand just to let them think that but one day I'm going to use the line and I want it to be available. Right? So I'm always looking at the possibility. Now this is something I do want to say, because I do think, Reverend Dillon, you correct me if I'm wrong. I do think that when there are successful businesses and communities, so me, Melvis, whatever, 10, 15, 20, 30 Black-owned businesses. When there are opportunities that come into a community that people sit on boards, sit in corporate rooms, sit in banks, know that are coming, I think that they should say, well, we have 15 successful businesses that we know of. One of them should be in this space. Let's go and find that business who we know is already successful in our community. Find one of these people to bank them, put them in position so that when we drop them in place, we know that they're going to be successful, that they're going to hire people in the community. And really, I think that that's a missing piece. Because when I went to the Victoria, I went by myself, which is ridiculous in Harlem. I should have went with my whole community saying, bam, she's the one. We're going to make it happen, and we're going to put you there, and then we're going to finance you. I had to find somebody who knew somebody to give me the interview. And when I had the interview with the realtor, showed me the space, I could get mud on the ground, bricks falling. That's when I was in the building. You know what I said to him? I said, walk with me. He said, okay. So the realtor, my realtor said, where are we going? I said, to the brownstone. She said, well, we're going there. So I just showed him who I am. So that when he's talking about me in the room with the people he's got to convince that I'm the person for that space, he needs to know who I am. And I walked him across 125th with all the crazy people waving at me. You know, everybody got all the way down. You know, that's a long block. You know how far that is? I chopped his head off. And then when I got in the brownstone, he was like, wow, I see. Oh my goodness, this is great. This is amazing. I went to my realtor and said, now we got it. Now we got it.
Facts.
So many things of what we do is so important. And when I was working in that concrete back, they wouldn't let me in the building. That's who I am.
So that was good. That is facts. Princess, that's right. Because literally, and she knows that Harlem City's board, which is comprised of all the elected government in Northern Manhattan, right? One of the things that they voted on was having also local businesses there. This is a local business that's been here, tried and true. And so if you have not done that, no.
Because somebody should have walked me in. I'm still tight about that.
Well, Lloyd, certainly we've known each other for a long time, and certainly we talked about, and we heard Israel talk about unbankable businesses. We heard about the horror story of Chase saying no to Shay. And I didn't hear that from you, Princess. So J. Morgan Chase said okay right away.
No, during the pandemic, I came to Chase because I had been with them since Manufacturers Hanover Trust. And when I came for the pandemic loan, they were like, oh, we're done.
Okay.
So I went to Carver. And Carver said yes. And I said, well, listen, I know about 20 other businesses. And I brought them all in.
Gotcha. Beautiful. Now, one of the things you heard about also, one of the resources that the city has in terms of NY Business Solution Center, right? So, Lloyd, can you tell us getting those small businesses ready or bankable?
Yeah, thank you, Curtis. That's really important. So, what we try to do is just build trust, right? We want to build the relationships, but we want businesses to come to us because we're creating the ecosystem, the economic infrastructure that's necessary for us to continue to build our communities. We have relationship with Princess Jenkins and Tamika and others. And so through our New York City Business Solution Center, which is right here at 361 West 125th Street, and then we also have another one in Washington Heights, we provide free small business services such as MWBE certification, like you heard earlier. It's a daunting process, and it takes a lot of work, and we have someone that can walk you through the process. And as you saw, as Reverend Dillon mentioned, there's a significant amount of opportunities through contracting with the city, and you need that certification. And so we provide that. That's a really important service. We have free legal services. Many of our small businesses are dealing with leases, they're dealing with contracting, they're dealing with all kinds of issues, and it can be very expensive if you're trying to go out there and hire an attorney. You can come to the New York City Business Solution Center and get pro bono legal services. You may look to get additional support with marketing, with financial management, getting access to capital. There's workshops in Spanish and in English, virtual and in person. We are trying to be as flexible as possible so we can meet you where you are, because we know our businesses are extremely busy every day, and so we want to make sure that they can get access to the resources. So, one of the things that's important is that, establish the relationship, right? Whether it's with the CDFI, whether it's with your banker, we have relationships with pretty much all the banks here in the community. And if they can't help a client, they'll call us because they want to maintain a deposit relationship. And so we're a very small, tight-knit community. And we're all and that's helped our small businesses because we understand and know how important you are to our community, because you're going to do the lion's share of the hiring. You're going to give back, right? And we need that. We're the heartbeat of this community. So our job is easy. You guys are doing the hard work. So now, in addition to that, the New York City Business Solutions also has access to all the CDFIs here in New York, not just us, all of them. So if for any reason we can't provide the loan, they can actually reach out to the other CDFIs or even other banks as well to help source a loan for the business. But the key is also just making sure we know where you are, right? And having that conversation, because there may be some gaps, right? You may have your financials, you could have had a loss last year, but this year to date, you're profitable, right? So right now, if you go to the bank, you're going to have to provide your 3 years
financial statements and tax returns. So let's say 2025 didn't look so good. So then you say, well, but this year I'm looking a little bit better. So maybe there's a way for us to get your interim financial statements and we can use those so that we can help get you funded. Or you might have had some challenges with your credit. So we also have credit repair services as well. That's a really big challenge for a lot of our small businesses that come into my office is credit. So I really want to encourage you to take a look at your credit. Don't be afraid, no matter where it's at. Just at least know where it's at. Because, and I tell my businesses, I say, don't be ashamed. Just tell me what it is. If you know, if you don't, let's find out. And I'll help you get to where you need to be. Right? I'll help you get there. So, it's just important to establish that relationship with our Business Solutions Center. And then through our CDFI, we provide microloans. We provide SBA loans as well. And one of the things that Curtis, we work with a lot of contractors. And I don't know if you've heard this, but there's been an incredible increase in predatory lending plaguing our communities. Merchant cash advances, MCAs, and I'm going to share some numbers with you. And this is not just data that I've read. I'm dealing with these clients. And these clients that I'm talking about, two of them in particular, one made $6 million last year in contracts. The second one made $4.5 million, right? That sounds very successful. Contracts with JFK, contracts with the city, right? Contracts with large city agencies. But guess what? They actually had some delays in payments from the city contracts to the tune of maybe 30, 60, 90, 120, 6 months. Days, right? What happens when you got to make payroll every 2 weeks? So we've had some clients that have payroll as high as $100,000 every 2 weeks, and unfortunately could not make payroll. So we took a look at some of these MCA loans, and they were paying interest rates as high as 100%. 100%. We had a client that she was paying $200,000 a month in interest payments. We refinanced her MCA debt. We brought her payments from $200,000 a month to $6,000 a month.
I think I was on the loan committee with that. Right? Yes. Yeah, you are. Because MWB service. I'm going to use the cheat sheet I have. How many of you guys are certified as an MWB? Just raise your hand. Thank you. What about those that they may be certified and actually got a job, let's say working at the hotel? Anybody in here like that? Oh, there 5-star protection right there. I didn't know you were going to be here. So, Noel, for you and what you do, right? I'm thinking about, okay, you guys were originally like a China Athletics, now right here at 55 West 125th Street, and I need to hear from you in terms of some of the success stories for small businesses that you helped assisted in getting funding.
So, there's a couple of things that I want to mention. Princess mentioned in time when she didn't need it. That's very important. Because it's also a lot about access to capital. It's about being capital ready. Right? So, getting your financials in order, right? What is a P&L? I heard you mention, the other panel mentioned it. But it's also about getting the right relationships. Like Princess mentioned, you got to know a good CPA, a good accountant, right? Get your team in order, right? Because those are the people that are going to create these forms. They're going to fill out applications for you. So it's important. And let me tell you, the SBS Center over there, Christian.
Yeah. Yes.
So, I'm a CDFI, you was a CDFI, and our clients, we send them over there sometimes, right? To get the help they need, whether it's legal, whether it's a business plan, they do it all. But we help businesses, for example, we recently did a scale-up event, which is a technical assistance for businesses within our loan portfolio that wanted to expand to a different location or a different line of revenue. A success story that we have is Dutch Baby Bakery in Washington Heights. They started in 2011 as a wholesaler, and they hustled for 3 years. Right, they filed their taxes. A lot of CDFIs, we need 2 years of tax returns. Right, my brother JR mentioned that CCMI. These aren't grants. It's a charity, right? We need to see that you're making money. So Dutch Baby, she did that. She had a wholesale business. She did it for 3 years, and she said, you know what, I want a retail location. So, he said, it was in 2021, the microphone was out, and she qualified. She had profitable business. And one thing I want to mention before I continue, that coverage service ratio. Has anybody heard of that term before?
Explain it, go ahead.
That coverage service ratio, and I know it was mentioned earlier, but it's when your revenue supersedes your expenses, and that's your profit, right? You get your profit, and what the payment of your loan will be, and how much of that profit can pay your loan. So most CFIs look for 1.25 debt coverage ratio. Super important. I mentioned earlier, you want to write off a bunch of things, your expenses. You say, you know what, I'm going to have a lower tax liability, I'm going to pay 1% less. That's not always a great thing. Now, if you see that you're making revenue, and you see what you're going to be paying with our loan, that gets us for that coverage ratio. And we want to be at 1.25, and some CFIs as low at 1.1. Right? So, she was doing great. Dutch Baby did great. Gave her a micro loan. In the fourth year, it was forgiven, and she participated in our CLO program this year. And she's open for second location on her and it's great. And now she applied for a build-out loan. To build out, she got approved for $300K. To build out her second location.
Excellent, thanks. Give it up, give it up. So now what? One of the things that we did not cover in the first, of course, panel were questions. Okay, so I'm going to throw it back to the audience. Reverend Dillon? Okay. Questions, yeah? Marco? Yeah. There are questions?
I have one question.
Okay.
And personally, the other panel will weigh in on this.
I do say the community capital, I do see you there.
Yeah, two parts. And I think one, if you could probably just explain a little bit about a CDFI, a Community Development Financial Institution. Just explain a little bit what that is, how that differs from a traditional bank. And the second question, which I kind of hear both groups in these small businesses, because it is hardly we see a small black business become a corporation of any sort. I mean, after that many years, there should be a couple hundred brownstone stores across the United States of America. And obviously that means that the same way banking institutions over the years have taken chances on so many other businesses in other communities, they need to take those chances on black businesses as well. How do we fix that? And how do we move from just black businesses mostly being in a mom and pop survival mode and becoming successful corporations?
I guess I'll start. So CDFIs is a community development financial institution. Now, it's a certification, really, from the U.S. Treasury. And what it is that we differ, that we're mission-led, or we're not-profit. And not-profit is key, right? When a bank is lending, they're lending for profitability, right? The reason why this program came about, the CDFI fund came about, was because of the Community Reinvestment Act, right? CRA. So big banks used to be in our communities, not reinvesting in our businesses. So because of this regulation that came out, correct me if I'm wrong, it was 1977. Thank you. And basically, it said if you're in our communities, you must reinvest. And there are CRA, basically rubric, it's a testing that every bank has. And they make, it's tested on multiple things. One of the things that they tested on is how much did Chase, Bank of America, invest in CDFIs? And CDFIs then in turn lend to small businesses. So that's a big point to point out. We're certified certification. We do CRA credits for big banks, and we're not for profit. So our mission is to fund businesses that historically have been overlooked. So we don't know what the landscape is Harlem, or Washington, of the Bronx, or Brooklyn. We were small business owners. We know the community. I walk down to Prince's business, right? As opposed to Chase. Chase is looking for profitability, and that's a little bit of a different mindset. Now, in terms of, how do you expand small businesses? I think we touched on this earlier is equity. Equity is tough because a lot of small businesses, that's their baby, right? So giving up a little bit, right? A little bit of your equity allows you to scale, right? And also allows you more lending. So I think the answer is equity and is a little bit of lending and a mixture.
Let me, I would love to answer that. One of the things that the two entrepreneurs mentioned, and this is something you guys can take back to your boards, is that most Black businesses, even when given funded, it's not enough. So that's a huge issue. Even if I'm borrowing and I'm borrowing to get ahead, I'm still in the same place because you haven't given me enough money to munch with, right? So I'm back on the struggle bus. So while we're sitting here pontificating about all this great lending in Harlem, we're not addressing the real issue, which is the fact that businesses remain undercapitalized. We're undercapitalized. I don't know how many times did they say it. So I'm just repeating it so that when you guys are in certain rooms, there should be a conversation about what do Black-owned businesses really need to, one, sustain. We can't scale until we can sustain. There's a sustainability issue in Black-owned businesses across the country, not just Harlem, right? So there needs to be real conversations about that. The other thing to answer your question, Reverend Lilla, is people have to come for successful businesses and set them up for the next level of success. So, i.e., you're in Brooklyn, let's say. Somebody says, I have a brownstone, I don't really need a tenant, but I have a commercial space. That's perfect for a business that you may know of who's already successful, that you can come to and say, hey, you ever think about expanding to Brooklyn? My friend has this. There's a commercial space, it's an affordable rent, here's an opportunity. Those opportunities must be talked about, be given. Those are the things that help you think about expansion, build on expansion. I mean, 5 stores in every borough is an expansion, right? So we have to stop pretending like we're getting it right because it's all wrong, because we're having this. Where's Charles? Is Charles here? Did we not have this conversation 30 years ago? So I'm not being funny about it. I just want us to understand we're in the same place, standing still, rowing a boat. They gave us CDFIs to keep us quiet, not to help us get ahead. There is more than enough money in our community that we shouldn't even really be having this conversation. We just have to commit to voting every day with our dollar. To put our dollars invested back into businesses. You take great opportunities like Harlem Week. You should be saving up for 6 months just to go buy something from 10 vendors at Harlem Week. That is an economic engine in our community. We want to walk through with our outfit on. That's cute. But there's all these small businesses that are depending on you making a purchase that day. So, I mean, I don't want to disrupt this flow of conversation, but the reality is, I'm a business owner. I struggle every day in Harlem. I go to work 7 days a week. I'm not an entrepreneur sitting at home with my legs crossed. I'm in that business, sweating, making it happen every day, and figuring out what's happening over here at the hotel. I'm negotiating with them. I'm negotiating with my landlord. I'm trying to keep myself afloat. I got a daughter that came out of college, God bless America, with all my hard work debt free. When young people are settled with college debt, this is a real situation. And the numbers are proving that. This is not something that somebody's making up. We saw the dismal numbers, right? So we have to make better, different, more informed decisions about how we, as a community, are going to move ourselves forward and stop fooling around.
I guess we want to go across here, right? And I just want to hear from each of you a statement in terms of do's and don'ts, in terms of, let's say, what types of businesses do that you look at it and you say, we cannot do this. And I'm not saying simply because their house is not in order, but it's the nature of the business. Okay? Maybe let's say we hear that high risk is what restaurants, right? So you know what? I'm sorry about this, everybody. So you know what? We will start with community capital. Go ahead.
If we're talking about specific types of businesses, there are a handful that
you say you would not touch.
Yeah, we're just not going to touch. For example, gas stations. We're not touching gas stations. Speculative real estate. If you are an investor and you're looking to buy and rehab and flip a property, we're not in the business of doing that. Though we are a lender for affordable housing development situations, right? But we're not into speculative real estate. Adult entertainment, for example. We're just not into that. Cannabis, we can't do anything with cannabis. Right.
Not yet.
Right? Not yet. There might be an opportunity in the future, but right now that's just not something that we can touch. And so there are a handful of businesses like that we just can't work with.
And let's say startups.
So startups, we can work with startups. However, we need you to be bringing something to the table that is valuable. Equity is very important. You have to have skin in the game. Experience, extremely important, right? In the field that you're looking to start this business in, a well thought out business plan and strategy is going to be very important. And generally, we're working with folks who are ready to go to market. So if you're looking to raise capital to build out a prototype, that's not something we can help you with that community capital. But if that prototype is built out, you have contracts in hand, you're ready to sell your product, we can have a conversation, right? So that's extremely important, and I do want to impress upon that a bit further. Having business opportunities in hand and ready to go is very important. And you can sell your product before you start raising capital. You can sell your product before you have money. A lot of people think you can't. You can do it, right? Like, is Tamika still here? So earlier you heard that she put a sign on the window while she was building out. She had a line already built up. So she's already displaying demand for her product and service, right? That was in place before the doors open. If you can build up a line before you literally open your doors, you're in a good position. So you have to think like that. There is no if you build it, they will come. As a business owner, you have to go out and get the business. It does not fall into that. I promise you, it does not fall into that. If you're not prepared to go out and sell and build your business, it's not going to work out, unfortunately. I just have to say that.
Joel.
Yeah, I just want to echo exactly that. All those sectors of businesses, we don't fund either for speculative reasons or just regulations. And also startups. We don't fund startups. Our people are very ambitious, right? We want to start a business. We want to be our own boss, right? So, and it's tough because that's everybody's dream. To own something and create something that we want. Whether it's creative, whether it's art, whether it's a product. But you have to understand that you need proof of concept, right? You need a proof of concept. You need the want has to be there. Somebody has to want. You want to work out and want to do it, right? So you need to create a concept that is one, people want, and that two is profitable. So startups are, there's programs in CCY. I know there's a couple partners out there. CFI's Main Street program that is great, and CCY's program that do start fun startups. But for now, no, and that's about that. That's about it.
Beautiful, beautiful. And Princess, now I know your story because remember, you started out FIT, okay? Were you looking at the Brownstone initiative? I don't think so. So you made a little pivot. So what would your advice be to a young entrepreneur looking to realize their dream?
Well, I think you mentioned studying at FIT. I actually studied fashion long before I came into it, and I also worked in the garment center and traveled all over the country in sales. And I opened a boutique in Brooklyn first. I was there for about 7 years, and I was living in Harlem. So when I ended that partnership and moved to Harlem, I was just looking for great fashion stores, and I really didn't find one here. So that was my impetus for starting the Brownstone.
Lloyd, no, I'm not touching you.
I mean, so, you know, I definitely echo my colleagues here in terms of like SIN-related businesses and things of that nature. You know, one caveat, you know, with the startup, and I could actually use Tamika as an example, is that, you know, don't be discouraged, right? Like if you're starting your business, you have a strong business plan, you've done your market research, you've identified the resources that you need, and you have a day job, right? And so even though she didn't necessarily have the track record and, you know, all of the profitability that would be necessary to build that loan, I was able to take a look at what she was making from her 9 to 5. So if you're in that phase, you're looking to start a business, you know, we can work with you and we can actually map out a plan in terms of how you can get to bankability, how you can get to the point where you can get a loan and get the capital that you need so that you can open your location, so you can purchase your inventory, purchase your equipment, those types of things. We can be a little bit more creative in terms of how we underwrite. In terms of no, you know, one of the things that's a challenge for us is if you're not making any profits and you don't have any other income that I could look to actually justify the fact that you can pay us back. Because you heard it earlier, this CDF, just because we're CDFI, we're mission-based, we're community-focused, doesn't mean that we're a charity. You know, we have to be very smart in terms of how we deploy our resources because we have to get recertified by the CDFI fund. We have to raise capital from institutions like a JP Morgan Chase that's taken a look at our portfolio and how we're actually underwriting our small businesses and whether we're getting repaid. We have a high delinquency rate or we have a high default rate. Guess what? We're not going to get any capital and we're not going to be able to lend into the community. So it's really important for the businesses to show a profit. And I've heard it earlier. Just be careful, you know, who you select as your accountant, because if they're giving you advice that you need to show a loss so that you can save on your taxes, and you know you're making a profit and you're just trying to cut corners, it's not going to help you long term when you're trying to grow your business. And I always tell business, I can quickly, it only takes me 5 minutes. I can look at your financials and I can quickly tell what's happening in the business. So a lot of times I try to help them and say, let me see your P&L statement, right? Let me see your bank statements. I can run a cash flow analysis and I can see that you're making a profit. And if you just make enough money to service the debt, like you heard earlier, that 1.25, all you need to show is for every dollar that you borrow, you have $1.25 of cash flow. That's all you have to show. And that will dictate how much you can actually borrow. So yes, there are, you know, hard lines in the sand that we have to draw in terms of who we're lending to, whether you are qualified. But the good thing is that you can still come to us. Like I mentioned earlier, we have our New York City Business Solutions Center, and Christian DeViva, our senior director, is a rock star. I mean, he works with everybody. If your credit is not great, if you don't necessarily have all the profitability, if you haven't been in business that long, if you don't have your certification, whatever the need is, whatever the challenge is, just come to us. We'll help you where you are. We'll help you get to where you're going.
Lloyd, so how does one get in touch with you? Go.
Yes. So you can get in touch with us through our website. So at www.harlemcommonwealth.com. .org. Or you can reach us as a little bit shorter, www.hefnyc.org. And we have a ton of resources on our website. We even have a module that you can actually log into to determine what course of action you can take in terms of would you qualify for a loan, or should you actually speak with someone from our New York City Business Solutions Center. So you just answer a few questions really quickly, and it'll direct you in terms of where to go. Because sometimes you go to the website, you're like, it's just so much information, I don't know what to do. We will direct you. You go to the website, it'll direct you exactly where you need to go, who you need to speak to, and we'll follow up promptly.
Thanks for that. Princess, how does one get in touch with you at Brownstone?
IG, Facebook is the Brownstone Woman, and of course I'm at 24 East 125th Street between 5th and Madison. And I'm happy to say that a merchants association that I helped to start almost 10 years ago is now becoming a bid. We're getting an east side bid on 125th Street and a bid for those who is a business improvement district. So I'm in Harlem every day working to make it better, guys. I'm right here working to make it better.
Thank you. Well, how does one get in touch with you?
You can email me at jabreu@umass.org. I'll spell it out. jabreu@umbc.org.
But Joe, I want to speak to you. So give me a number.
Oh, okay. I don't. Well, this is office number. I gotta look it up.
That's fine.
I'll look it up. But email me. jabreu@umass. That's the best way. Thank you so much. Sure. I'm gonna come out with my contact information. I have my cards with me today. You guys can have that. I have the scan. You can scan the digital card as well. You can find us on www.communitycapitalny.org. Okay.
Community Capital, ORG.
Yes. And if I may add one thing, right? So business ownership, right? It's a investing endeavor. Okay, if we start from that standpoint first, I think it's going to have a tremendous impact on how we move forward. We do fall in love with the projects that we engage in, but more often than not, we forget that starting a business is an investment endeavor. You are expecting an ROI. It's no different than buying a stock, selling it at a higher point difference, right? It's no different than buying a bond or investing in real estate. And we often forget that to running a business. Now it's a little bit more involved, and I get it. We fall in love with the things that we're engaged in, but don't ever forget that it's an investing endeavor. And so if we educate ourselves around what an investment is, what it means to get an ROI, not only will we be better business owners, but we will be better investors. And if you are an investor, you can now do the kind of things that Princess was talking about, right? Because if you know how to evaluate a business opportunity, you don't have to be a business owner yourself, but you can determine whether or not a business opportunity is one that you should engage in. And we do have enough capital within our greater community that we can support and invest in our local businesses. But most of us are not investors, right? We don't know how to calculate value in our own businesses. We don't know what drives value in our businesses, so we miss the opportunities when they get put out in front of us. Okay?
Thank you for that. Give it up for the Saddler here, y'all.
Well, everyone, as we draw to a close this great evening, I just want to thank everybody for coming out and staying, hanging in there, listening to the information. Please, did I miss something?
No, you got it.
Please give another hand to our great panelists. Okay, now for our outstanding panelists, moderators, for sharing their time, their expertise, and their perspectives with us tonight. This panel, as well as the panel before. Thank you so much to Reverend Dillon.
Yeah.
To our New York City Controller who came and gave us some words, and he had to leave. Mark Levine, our valued partners at Chase, particularly Ms. Tanisha Ritter, who really walked me through this and walked me through this in a very meaningful way. Thank you, Tanisha. To our board members who came, I don't need to name them all, you know who you are, but thank you very much. Most of all, thank you for being here and for investing your time in this conversation. We hope you leave tonight with not only new information, but with new connections and new possibilities. And there are hors d'oeuvres. So please get up, mix and mingle, meet somebody you didn't know before you came, have some light refreshments in the back, and get home safely. Thank you so much.